Hi guys, Kenny at the Skiing Boardroom here. Sasha has finally come in to visit us and bring in the boards.
Hello!
So a while back she put a post up in the group to talk about mounting bindings, and there's quite a lot of you who really weren't sure about what to do when mounting bindings onto your snowboard. So we're just going to cover the very basics of it today. First of all, apologies for any background noise you can hear. We've got the machinery running up the stairs, so we'll give a bit of background noise. So what we're going to cover today is just the very most basic sort of things. There's so much more you could go into it, and we could do a much more in-depth sort of thing. If you feel you need more in-depth information, please put it in the comments at the end and we can do another video and maybe look at some specifics that you guys particularly want to get into. So first thing we're going to look at is where do you actually put the bindings on the board. So this board here has got a kind of unusual wee sort of reference markers for it. If you can see these wee axes, they've used an axe obviously because it's part of the design of the board, but what that points to is that we should be using these 4 screws here and these 4 bolts here if we're going to use the board. If we bought the board, it's the exact right size for the person who's riding it, and we want to ride it as the manufacturer has intended, we're going to set it up on the reference points, and that's the most basic way. If you don't know what your preferred stance with is, to just get the bindings onto the board and give you a starting point. Now, when you're setting up your board, you can usually, with most disc setups, you will have a option to be able to adjust them either laterally or side to side or front to back basically. So basically you can have it so you can adjust the binding forward and backwards, or you could adjust it side to side. Now in this instance we're going to set up so we've got a bit of forward and backwards adjustment. Now if you can get in on the binding there, Sasha.
Yep.
If we can pick this up, most bindings will have, or in fact all bindings will have some numbers around them there. So you see from the start there, we've got 0 through to 15, and all these wee dashes go in increments of 3. So it goes 3, 6, 9, 12
It's not
to
focusing,
15.
but
not focusing, okay.
yeah, but that's okay.
Okay, but if you look at your bindings, you'll be able to see that. And then on the disc in the binding, there will be a wee arrow that you can basically put to the marker that you want it to be. So in this case, I'm going to set the binding here at 12 degrees. Okay, so...
And what type of rider is it for 12 degrees
so
for?
This is basically what we're setting up for your son, is we're going to set up at 12 and 12 or 12 and negative 12 because he's going to be doing a bit of freestyle, learning to ride switch, so we want the angles of his feet to be the same so that the board behaves exactly the same. He's got a true twin board here. That means that if his angles of his feet are exactly the same on both feet, the board will behave the same whether he's riding regular or whether he's riding switch.
Yeah.
So what we're looking to do is set the board up so we've got this sort of equal distance front and back. We don't want to set it too far to the back, and then because we'll have an imbalance there. If you can see there, the heel's much closer to the back than the toe is. That means we'll have a lot of overhang. Equally, we don't want to set it too far forward so that we've got too much overhang on the front. Unfortunately, we don't have a boot here right now to fine tune the adjustment, so we're just going to go with it being centralised here and get the 4 screws in like that. These are brand new screws here with a wee bit of Loctite on them, so when you screw them in, they'll get held in place quite nicely. So first of all, when I'm setting up, I just go around and do each of them finger tight, a crisscross pattern, and then go back into it and tighten them up. Okay, and you can give them a final kind of torque up and check on that. But that's basically how we would get your binding set up onto the board in the most basic sort of setup there.
Okay,
On
thank
your-
you. And what do we have here
Some-
now? Messed up board.
Okay, so this was board that Sasha's son had his accident on, and I'm sure most of you have seen the video where he broke his arm. What we've seen here is a board that's basically not compatible for this type of binding. So if we look up at the other end here, this is an older Burton style board, so it's got an unusual, it's what they call the 3D pattern, and you really needed a mini disc that's something like this, so that it would go on and be held on. This again, this is unusual because this style is held on with 3 screws. Normally on any modern binding other than the Burton rail system it's 4. So with this one it's only been able to be held on by 2 screws, and it doesn't give you the same level of adjustment because everything is very slightly out on the adjustment pattern of this. So it's really not ideal to have this binding on this board. In fact, it's not good at all to have this binding on this board. So
can I just add on, like, just to explain a little bit more to people? So I bought this board used with bindings, and bindings obviously was also old. And then I took my newer bindings, which I bought for a child because it's a much better, whatever you call it. What do you call it, Kenny?
Much easier ratchet system.
Yeah, it's much easier. So it's really easy for my child. So I thought, you know what, easier bindings are better, but this is where I failed. And just an advice to everyone else, do not do it. Get a right board for your right bindings.
It's something that we see quite often when folk buy a second-hand setup off of eBay, and they maybe buy the bindings separately from the board, and then they have real trouble getting the boards and bindings to match up, and it's because they're not really compatible. Sometimes it's possible to buy other discs to fit in on it, but that's very, very unlikely, particularly with these older systems. It's not so easy to find stuff that fits it now. So if you want us to do another wee video and talk more about compatible systems and stuff like that, then we can do that and show some examples. But hopefully that's helped you out a wee bit. If you want to know any more information, you want us to get into more detail on working out your stance widths and stuff like that, we're happy to do that. Any issues, you can always give the shop a phone, talk to myself or Al.
Thank you so much, Kenny. That was really, really, really good information to get, and I really appreciate, guys, your knowledge and your experience and how kind you are to share it with everyone else. So any group member who is willing to know any more information, feel free to comment. Please, 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 just be like, don't be shy, just ask. If you don't know anything, just ask. I have been told once, like, a lot of people are willing to ask a lot of questions, but they're not because they're shy. Well, I'm also shy, but here I am with bindings which doesn't match my board, and you know, and it's okay not to know. That's why we have this shop here, and I'm sure if you struggle with anything, these guys will sort you with anything. And this is not advertisement, I do not get paid for it or anything. I really truly appreciate the job they're doing. So I'll see you all later, and this is my last video for this season, and I'll see you all in the next season. Bye bye.